All right, guys, here we are. Thank you all for coming to this event for tuition freeze, for this rally for the tuition freeze for all Montana University students across this great state. And where this event's being promoted and brought to you by the Associated Students of the University of Montana. We have several great speakers for you here today who all advocate for students and for the tuition freeze. ASUM provides great services to students. And yeah, so we're just going to get started. Our first speaker for you here today is the Vice President of ASUM, Sean McQuillan.
Thank you, Sam. So my name is Sean McQuillan. I'm the Vice President of ASUM, and I want to thank you all for coming out today to support a tuition freeze. And by being here, you're not only working to support a tuition freeze at the University of Montana, but in fact at all the Montana University System campuses across the state. Right now, all those college campuses from Havre to Billings to here in Missoula to our friends in Bozeman are having rallies just like this, all with the same message, that students want to keep the cost of higher education in the state of Montana affordable. ASUM asked a lot of speakers to come here today and support the tuition freeze, but as you may have noticed, none of them wanted to speak on this issue because they thought that it was too politically risky. But let me be clear when I say that there is nothing risky about supporting affordable higher education in the state of Montana. Every elected official should be here today to tell students what they're doing in Helena to make it more affordable to come to college here. So instead of getting politicians to come, ASUM got students to come because nobody knows the pains of paying for college more than we do as students. A tuition freeze is important because it ensures that everyone is able to pursue higher education in the state of Montana. What a tuition freeze is really all about is equality and making sure that students from all walks of life are able to come here and work for their degree, not only those students that are well off. The legislature has already promised the money necessary to keep the Montana University system operating at the same rate that it's operating at right now without a tuition freeze for students for the next 2 years. But now it's time for the legislature to promise students that their tuition won't be raised regardless. The cost of attendance in the Montana University system is one of the cheapest in the nation, and we need to keep it that way. The Montana University system is known for having the best bang for your buck because of the high quality of education that students can get here for a relatively low price. And if tuition is to go up, that may not necessarily be true for much longer. Inside the Montana University system, there are almost 50,000 students. Those students have a loud voice when they speak together, and that's exactly what's happening here today and all across the state. Surely the legislators who are representing us in Helena right now will take notice of these events, and they will know that students are demanding their interests be better represented. And nothing about a tuition freeze is partisan. It doesn't matter if your legislator is a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. It just makes common sense to make tuition affordable so that students who want to go to college in Montana can come here and get a high-quality degree. At the end of this day, the 150 legislators that represent us all in Helena will have heard that more than anything, students want the cost of higher education to stay the same and not go up. In addition to these rallies happening on our campus and across the state, the leadership from all the student governments are in the Capitol right now, walking the halls, talking to legislators on behalf of all 50,000 students and telling them how important this is to us. Sometimes students feel that they don't have very much power to make change in their community or in the state of Montana, but this rally is a direct contradiction to those feelings. Students have immense power when they work together. And in closing, I want to use a quote from Margaret Mead, which often brings me a lot of inspiration. Margaret said, "To never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world, for indeed it is the only thing that has," and that is exactly what is happening here today. Thank you all so much for coming out and supporting this tuition freeze. I can't tell you how important it is, not only for those of us who are graduating soon and won't be affected by it, but for the students that are coming in after us. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. He summed it up pretty well. We have another great speaker for you next. He's a senator at the Associated Students of the University of Montana as well, Caleb Chestnut.
Thank you guys for being here today in support of the financial freedom and financial stability of students all across the state of Montana. The reason this tuition freeze is so important is because Montana already has one of the highest student loan default rates in the entire country. And our state already seems to have a ton of trouble putting money towards the education of students. Montana is 46th in education funding in the entire nation, meaning that students are already forced to bear a lot of the burden of their education. The way that the legislature intends to continue funding education in Montana is on the backs of students. And while this tuition freeze would affect everybody in the Montana university system, I have to admit that I'm kind of reluctant to extend the same financial liberty to students at Montana State University, Bozeman. Go Grizz. Okay, that didn't make anybody laugh, but I'm from Bozeman, so I have to throw a few stones at them every now and then. Obviously, this tuition freeze is very important for all of you. I've witnessed my friends not only here, but at Montana State University and in universities in California, Utah, Oregon, and Washington, and having to witness the crippling burden of student loans. For example, my neighbors in Bozeman are still paying off their student loans from tuition at the University of Oregon and are about to take out more loans to pay for their children as they go off to college. Student loan debt is one of the most crippling burdens that anyone can have their entire life. There's no way that anyone can file for bankruptcy on student loan debt, and obviously this creates a huge issue as they're forced to continue to pay off the loans throughout their entire life. A tuition freeze would decrease the burden of student loan debt because obviously students would be having to take out would be having to take out smaller loans. This is obviously going to help students with their financial freedom and stability, and they can then enter the workforce without having the burden of loans on their shoulders. This is why a tuition freeze is so important to students here. And if we want to encourage students to come to Montana to witness the beautiful scenery, to go ski at Snow Bowl or go fishing on the Clark Fork, a low tuition is something that's going to have to be present in order to make sure that they're attracted to this beautiful place. Incredibly, we're given the opportunity to demand a tuition freeze in the legislature. The legislature has not been very privy to it this session, but it's important that we have rallies like this and show that this tuition freeze means so much to students that they want to stand out here on the Oval and demand that the legislature listen to their voices. The fact that you guys are here assembled today makes a difference in their affairs. The legislators don't listen to each other. In the end, they don't listen to the governor, they don't listen to their staff, they listen to you. And that's why rallies like this are so important for such important issues like student loans and a tuition freeze. If you guys don't want to see your friends have to go through the crippling burden of student loans, then this tuition freeze is imperative for the Montana University system to enact. If we can keep tuition low, we can encourage students to come here and encourage them to enter the workforce without a psychological and economic burden of a high loan. Indeed, a tuition freeze really benefits everybody. And during this legislative session, because this tuition freeze is funded as opposed to the 2013 tuition freeze being unfunded, the budgetary situation at the university actually won't change. In other words, this is the perfect time for a tuition freeze to happen. And as I look around this university, I want to make sure that students here are enjoying their time without worrying about having to pay off an extremely burdensome loan, and at least decrease that burden a little bit by maintaining a constant tuition. Thank you guys for being here today and showing the importance of financial liberation for students all across the state of Montana, even if they're students at Montana State University. Thank you guys for being here again today. We're hoping that this sends huge messages to the legislature in Helena, and I hope that you all can continue your civil advocacy as this issue and other issues continue to progress in the last 2 weeks of the legislature. Go Grizz.
Thanks, Caleb. All right, as it's been said, the tuition and the cost of education across the state of Montana has been a burden on students. It's one of the most worrying and pressing issues facing students and young adults in this nation is the cost of education. It's a luxury, but it shouldn't cost like one. we're the backbone of Montana, and we're the backbone of the U.S., and we need to stand for it. So with that being said, I'm going to give the mic off to the last speaker, the Student Political Action Director here at ASUM, Blaine Mets.
Hey guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty scared. Like, I looked at the net balance I have today of loans, and I'm sitting at $15,755.20 of loans. Growing up, nobody told me that my dreams had a price tag, and now I realize that they do, and it's huge. And I don't think it's right, and that's why the tuition freeze is important to me. I interviewed some students around campus and asked them what the tuition freeze means to them. Alyssa Fusco, a comm major, said that the tuition freeze is important so that students don't have to work as many hours and can commit more time to studies. Because that's what higher education is all about. It's not about working full-time, it's about your studies. Hannah Dahl, a dance major, said that tuition freeze is important because if a student has so much debt, it harms their future prosperity. And it's true, it really does. Jason Daniels, a music major, said that tuition should remain fixed so that Montanans can afford to pay for school. Lonnie Brady, a sociology major, says that we know college is a stepping stone to future success. If tuition continues to go up, you're undermining the future success of prospective students. And finally, Charlotte Larson says that the tuition freeze is important so that everyone should have the opportunity to experience what has to offer. With such a debt load, people don't pursue what they want to do. They don't pursue happiness. They don't pursue fulfillment. They pursue stability. And I don't think that's a good way to live. That's not healthy, that's not Montana. 20 years ago, the state paid for nearly 75% of higher education costs, and now it's flip-flopped, and students pay 60% of all higher education costs on their own backs. So honestly, I want to call to action here. I want you guys to go out. I want you guys to get the information for your legislators, and I want you to call them. I want you to email them. And I want you guys to let them know how important this issue is to you and how important it is to everyone over Montana, all across Montana. By the hour, activism pays. Just by being here, you may be saving students across the University of Montana, across all of Montana, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's super important. I'm super proud as a student to be able to stand here and talk to you guys and represent our university. Well, all other universities are being represented today as well. Everyone's coming out and showing support for this, and honestly, it makes me really hopeful. And with that, I just want to thank you guys for being here and wish you guys luck in your future. Thanks.
All right, awesome. As it's been said, the burden of student debt is one of the most pressing issues here in Montana and across the nation. So I highly recommend calling your legislator. You can find out easily just by Googling it.
They just call 406-444-4800. It's the capital hotline.
Yeah, so the capital outline hotline is 406-444-4800. So definitely take that down and call your legislators for that. There's a mark being made today with all the rallies across the state of Montana for this tuition freeze. It's going to have an impact on your legislature, whether you know it or not. This must happen in the state of Montana. We must have a tuition freeze and free up the burden of student debt. And feel free to help yourself to some cookies and have a great day. Thanks for coming, guys.
Oh, yeah. Kind of in the shade.
No problem, man.